Alex had always thought his life would be ordinary. He had trained for years in diplomacy and interstellar protocol, and now, at 28, he had finally been sent on a mission that could define his career. His destination was Lithuria, a distant planet ruled by the enigmatic alien queen Serafina. The humans had heard many things about Lithuria, a world of glowing cities, dangerous wildlife, and a queen whose sharp mind kept her empire under complete control. To most diplomats, it was intimidating. To Alex, it was a challenge. The first sight of the Lithurian capital took his breath away. The city floated above an iridescent sea, with towers of glass-like metal reaching toward the sky. Streams of glowing light moved between buildings like living veins, and enormous bioluminescent plants lit up the streets with shifting colors. Alien citizens moved gracefully, some with wings, some with multiple limbs, and all with eyes that reflected intelligence far beyond human comprehension. Alex felt a mixture of awe and nervousness. He followed the rest of the human delegation through the grand entrance of the palace. The building was enormous, its architecture unlike anything he had ever seen. Walls seemed alive, pulsing softly with a light that mirrored the planet's sky. The air smelled faintly of alien flowers, sweet but slightly metallic. Alex tried to focus on the instructions the ambassador had given him. Stay professional, avoid unnecessary interaction, and most importantly, do not draw attention to himself. The delegation entered the throne room, where Queen Serafina sat on a raised platform. Her presence was commanding, her posture perfect, and her gaze sharp enough to make any human shiver. Her purple-scaled skin shimmered under the palace lights, and her eyes glowed like molten gold. She spoke to the delegation with a voice that was calm but carried the weight of authority, her words perfectly measured. Alex tried to keep up with the translations, but he realized quickly that her language was layered with subtle meaning, something a human mind could barely grasp. As formalities ended, the delegation was asked to tour the palace gardens while preparations were made for the official banquet. Alex followed politely, his attention wandering to the small details. The way the plants seemed to react to their presence, subtly shifting and glowing, the hovering fountains that defied gravity, and the delicate bridges that spanned streams of glowing liquid. Everything was mesmerizing. Lost in thought, Alex didn't notice when he strayed from the main path. The other delegates had wandered ahead, engaged in conversation with their hosts, leaving him alone. That was when he heard a soft sound, a giggle, melodic and filled with curiosity. Alex looked around, his eyes scanning the glowing garden. At first he thought it might be a small alien creature, but then he saw her. A little girl, no more than 8 or 9, with iridescent wings folded gently against her back, running toward him with uncontainable energy. Before Alex could react, the girl launched herself into his arms, hugging him tightly. The shock froze him for a moment. He had been prepared for protocol, for diplomacy, maybe even for danger, but never for this. "Hi. I'm Lyra," she said in broken human words, her voice ringing with excitement. "I wanted to meet you." Alex swallowed nervously. Hello," he stammered, unsure whether he should step back or hug her back. He opted for the safe middle, keeping his hands gently at her shoulders. The girl's arms tightened and she leaned her head against his chest, her laughter infectious. From a distance, a few palace guards noticed the scene. Whispers spread like wildfire. A human, alone with the princess. Some looked alarmed, others curious. In the Lithurian court, such behavior was unusual, even shocking. Children, especially princesses, were rarely allowed such freedom. And yet, Lyra seemed fearless, confident in her choice. I don't know what to say," Alex admitted, feeling a strange warmth in his chest. He had never interacted with a child like this before, let alone an alien princess. Her presence was bright, almost overwhelming but not threatening. There was something genuine in her eyes, a curiosity and innocence that demanded trust. Lyra let go slightly, circling around him, inspecting his features as if she were trying to memorize every detail. "You're not like the others," she said. "You're different." Alex blinked. "Different. Yes, humans are different. I wanted to see one. I've read about you, but seeing is better." Her words tumbled out in excitement. Alex laughed nervously. "I'm glad I could meet you then." He was still unsure how to react to this sudden intimacy. In his world, formal boundaries were strict, but in hers, it seemed rules were more flexible, at least for her. Lyra grabbed his hand, tugging him toward a small clearing in the garden. "Come, I'll show you something." Alex followed cautiously, mindful of the strange flora. As they walked, he noticed her wings shimmering with different colors, like sunlight on water. It was beautiful and mesmerizing. The clearing was filled with floating flowers, drifting in the air as if suspended by magic. Lyra darted among them, giggling, her movements agile and precise. "These are my favorites," she said. "They follow me when I dance." She spun in a circle, and the flowers swirled around her in response, creating a miniature storm of color and light. Alex watched, amazed. "They respond to you?" he asked. Lyra nodded eagerly. "Yes, everything here listens to the princess." She gave him a playful nudge. "Now you try," Alex laughed, stepping carefully into the clearing. He reached out to the flowers, and to his surprise, some floated toward his hand, hovering for a brief moment. He couldn't help but feel a thrill. This was unlike anything he had ever experienced. I think they like me," he said with a smile. Lyra clapped her hands in delight. "See, I told you, humans are fun." She threw herself into his arms again, and this time Alex hugged her back instinctively. There was a moment of pure connection. No diplomacy, no fear, no protocol. Just a human and an alien child sharing a genuine bond. From the palace balcony above, a tall figure watched silently. Queen Seraphina observed the scene with her usual calm expression, her mind racing behind those golden eyes. Her daughter had always been curious about humans, but this boldness was unexpected. The queen did not intervene, though she made a mental note to keep a closer eye on Alex. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the glowing gardens, Alex realized he had spent hours in the princess's company. He had not met with the delegation, he had not followed protocol, and he had not prepared a single diplomatic note. And yet he felt alive. Lyra, sensing it was time to leave, finally released him from her grip. "Will you stay?" she asked softly, her large eyes filled with hope. I will," Alex replied sincerely. "I want to see more of this world, and you, of course." Lyra beamed and skipped ahead, her laughter echoing through the garden. Alex followed, a mixture of nerves and excitement thrumming in his chest. He didn't know what the future held, but one thing was certain. Meeting the alien queen's daughter had changed everything. That night, as Alex tried to rest in the guest quarters, his mind replayed every moment in the garden. He wondered what the palace officials would say, how the queen would react, and whether he had just made a serious diplomatic mistake. Yet, despite the uncertainty, he felt a strange sense of purpose. He knew that somehow, this encounter with Lyra would shape not just his mission, but the future of human-Lithurian relations. Unbeknownst to him, Lyra was also thinking about the human who had embraced her so easily. She had seen many humans before in reports and holograms, but none had felt real. Alex was different. Brave, kind, and interesting, qualities she admired. She made a small promise to herself. She would protect him as much as she could, even if it meant bending a few rules along the way. And so, the first spark of an unexpected friendship began, one that would challenge traditions, stir palace politics, and ultimately test the courage and ingenuity of a human in a world far beyond his own. The next morning, Alex awoke to the soft hum of the Lithurian palace. The light streaming through the windows cast dancing patterns on the walls, shifting colors as if the room itself were alive. He rubbed his eyes, still adjusting to the alien surroundings. Though he had trained for interstellar diplomacy, Nothing had prepared him for the sheer beauty and strangeness of Lithuria. After a quick breakfast, Alex was led by a guide to meet with the rest of the human delegation. They were discussing trade agreements, cultural exchanges, and security protocols, all with the careful precision of professional diplomats. Alex tried to focus, but his mind kept wandering back to the garden and the small, energetic princess who had taken him by surprise. He wondered if she was up and about already, planning some new adventure for the day. His thoughts were interrupted by the sound of soft laughter outside the palace corridors. He turned and saw Lyra standing there, her iridescent wings shimmering in the morning light. She waved at him with a mischievous grin. "Come," she said. "I found something new today." Alex hesitated. The delegation had warned him to maintain protocol, and he was supposed to stay nearby the ambassador. Yet the look in her eyes made hesitation impossible. He followed her, careful not to draw attention, as she led him through winding hallways and hidden passages he hadn't noticed before. They arrived at a small chamber tucked away in a quiet corner of the palace. The room was filled with strange devices and alien instruments, glowing softly with energy. Lyra ran her fingers across the panels, pressing buttons and moving levers, and the machines responded with gentle whirs and flashes. "These are experiments," she explained. "I make new things with them. I like to see what humans think." Alex knelt down to examine one of the devices. It resembled a globe of liquid light that shifted in shape and color when touched. "This is amazing," he said. "I've never seen anything like it." "How did you learn to use these?" Lyra shrugged playfully. "I watch my teachers, I watch the scientists, then I try myself. Humans can help too." She clapped her hands in excitement, bouncing on her toes. Alex smiled, feeling a connection he hadn't expected. It was strange and wonderful to interact with a child from an entirely different species, especially one so intelligent and curious. "Then maybe I can help you today," he said. Lyra's eyes sparkled, and she handed him a small alien tool. Together, they experimented with the devices, laughing whenever the light patterns shifted in unexpected ways. As the morning passed, Alex realized that his presence with the princess was creating a tension, though not immediately obvious. Palace staff watched discreetly from corners, and whispers traveled quickly among the alien scholars and guards. Many were unsure whether to intervene. The human's behavior was unusual, but Lyra's enthusiasm was difficult to suppress. When a minor accident occurred, a small device began to overheat and emit sparks. Alex reacted instinctively. Using his quick thinking, he deactivated the machine with a human technique, carefully applying pressure in a sequence that the Lithurians had not considered. Lyra's mouth opened in awe. "You saved it, you're clever," Alex laughed, brushing off the praise. "I just reacted. Sometimes humans do things differently." Lyra hopped in place. "Different is fun." "I like different." She then grabbed his hand and pulled him to another corner of the room. "Now I'll show you my favorite one." This device was a small, floating orb that responded to emotion. When Alex's hand neared it, it emitted a soft glow that pulsed with his heartbeat. Lyra's eyes widened in fascination. "It feels your heart, your feelings. Can it tell happiness?" Alex held his hand steady, watching the orb. "I think it can, see. It's glowing faster when I laugh." He chuckled, and the orb's light flickered in time with his laughter. Lyra clapped her hands in delight, bouncing around him. "I never saw a human laugh like that. It makes the light dance." They spent hours experimenting, and Alex began to understand Lyra's perspective on life. For her, the world was a place to explore, to test, and to enjoy. There were rules, of course, but they were not as rigid as the humans or adults believed. And for Alex, her enthusiasm sparked a curiosity he hadn't felt in years. He realized that sometimes, learning from a child could teach lessons that no formal training ever could. Later, when they stepped back into the gardens, they noticed that some palace officials were watching from a distance. Alex felt a twinge of anxiety, aware that their bond could be misinterpreted. Lyra, however, seemed fearless. She skipped ahead, twirling through the air with her wings catching the light. "Come on, don't worry about them," Alex followed, a mixture of amusement and nervousness in his steps. He realized that Lyra had a way of breaking down walls, of making him feel at ease even in the most alien surroundings. He laughed quietly to himself. He had been trained for years in negotiation, strategy, and diplomacy, yet nothing had prepared him for the simple joy of running through a garden with a curious alien princess. By midday, news of their activities had spread to the Queen's advisors. Many were concerned. Human influence over the princess could disrupt carefully planned protocols, they argued. Some believed the human might unintentionally manipulate the princess, while others saw it as harmless. The queen, however, observed from her chambers, silent and calculating. She understood the human's value but wanted to see his character firsthand. During a pause in their exploration, Lyra tugged Alex toward a small waterfall where glowing fish swam in liquid light. "Do you like it here?" she asked, her voice sincere. "Do you like Lithuria?" Alex looked around, taking in the breathtaking scene. "It's incredible. I've never seen anything like this. And I like it more because of you." Lyra beamed, her eyes sparkling with happiness. "Humans are strange but good," she said thoughtfully. "I think you and me, we can be friends, really friends." Alex smiled, feeling a warmth in his chest he hadn't expected. "I'd like that," he said, "really friends." As they continued exploring, Alex noticed the subtle ways Lyra's presence affected the palace. Guards who had been strict and distant relaxed slightly. Scientists who had been focused on rigid experiments smiled at her antics, and even the air seemed lighter when she was near. He realized that her innocence and curiosity had a power he could not have imagined, a power that could change the palace in small but meaningful ways. Their afternoon adventure was interrupted by a sudden alert, a minor security breach in one of the lower gardens. Alex instinctively followed Lyra, keeping close as they approached the scene. A small drone, part of the palace's defense system, had malfunctioned and was moving erratically. Lyra's eyes widened and she clung to Alex instinctively. "Stay behind me," he said, stepping forward. Using his understanding of human engineering and logic, he calculated the drone's movements and carefully redirected it away from the princess and the surrounding flora. The machine hovered safely before shutting down completely. Lyra hugged him tightly again, whispering, "You saved me again." Alex laughed softly, feeling both pride and humility. "It wasn't just me. We worked together," he said. Lyra's small face lit up with a smile. "Yes, together." As the sun dipped toward the horizon, casting long shadows across the glowing gardens, Alex realized something important. This mission, meant to be a formal diplomatic exchange, had become something far more personal. He had formed a bond with the princess that went beyond politics, beyond protocol. And while there were risks in the palace, in the politics, in the unknown, he knew he would face them with courage and careful thought. Lyra, sensing the end of the day, grabbed his hand once more and tugged him toward a quiet corner filled with soft moss. "Promise me something," she said, looking up at him with wide eyes. "What's that?" he asked. "Promise you will not leave me alone. Not yet." "Not for today," she said softly, her voice almost a whisper. Alex knelt to her level, smiling gently. "I promise, Lyra, I won't leave you." And in that moment, a human and an alien child shared a silent understanding. A bond had formed that no protocol, no court intrigue, and no misunderstanding could break. As night fell over the palace, Alex returned to his quarters, exhausted but exhilarated. He knew the days ahead would be filled with challenges, formal diplomacy, political intrigue, and the unpredictable nature of the alien court. But he also knew that he had gained something far more valuable: friendship, trust, and the chance to understand a world unlike any other. And somewhere in the palace, Princess Lyra rested with a small smile, dreaming of the adventures that awaited her and the human who had unexpectedly become her friend. The following days in the palace were a mixture of wonder and tension. Alex continued to explore Lithuria with Lyra, discovering new chambers, gardens, and laboratories that seemed to defy the laws of physics. The human delegation watched nervously from a distance, unsure how to interpret the growing closeness between the young princess and their representative. To the Lithurian court, the situation was equally confusing. Some scholars whispered that Alex might be influencing the princess in ways that could disrupt tradition, while others quietly admired his courage and kindness. Alex did his best to maintain a balance. He was careful not to overstep boundaries, but he could not ignore the trust and curiosity that Lyra placed in him. She treated him like a companion, a guide, and sometimes a teacher, showing him alien inventions and customs while asking endless questions about humans, their habits, and their ways of thinking. Every answer he gave seemed to delight her, and she would rush off to share it with her floating instruments or the glowing plants around the palace. One morning, Alex noticed that the palace atmosphere had changed slightly. The guards were more vigilant, the advisors whispered more frequently, and there was a subtle tension in the air he could sense even without understanding the exact details. Lyra seemed to notice it too, her normally energetic demeanor subdued, a faint frown on her small face. "What is it?" Alex asked as they walked through a crystal-lined corridor. Lyra hesitated. "Some of the people, they don't like you spending so much time with me. They say humans can be tricky." Alex shook his head, smiling gently. "I'm not here to cause trouble, Lyra. I'm here to learn and help. You can trust me." She nodded slowly, but her wings drooped slightly, signaling that she was worried. Alex could feel the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. He had thought the biggest challenge was understanding alien technology or culture, but it seemed that palace politics were far more delicate and dangerous. That afternoon, Alex and Lyra were exploring a hidden garden above the palace's floating towers when a group of palace officials approached. Their expressions were stern, their voices formal. "Princess Lyra," one of them began, "it is inappropriate for you to wander with this human without supervision. Please return immediately." Lyra glared at them, her wings flaring slightly. "I don't care. He's my friend, and he helps me." Alex stepped forward quickly, raising a hand in a gesture of calm. "I understand your concern, but I have been careful. Lyra is safe, and I mean no harm." The officials exchanged looks, clearly unsure how to respond. In the end, they retreated, muttering under their breath about human audacity. Lyra turned to Alex, her eyes wide. "See, I told you, some people don't understand friendship." Alex chuckled softly, feeling a mixture of relief and unease. The palace was filled with rules, and while Lyra could bend some, others were unspoken and strict. He realized that their bond, while genuine, could put both of them at risk if they weren't careful. The next day, as Alex was reviewing notes from the delegation, a subtle alarm sounded. Lyra, who had been experimenting with a small floating device, immediately flew to his side. "Something's wrong," she exclaimed. "I can feel it." Alex followed her instinct to the central courtyard, where a minor commotion had already started. A malfunctioning drone, part of the palace security system, had been triggered, and its erratic movement posed a danger to anyone nearby. Though it was a smaller security model, it could still cause serious harm if it struck someone. Without hesitation, Alex analyzed the drone's behavior, applying both human logic and his understanding of Lithurian technology from previous days. He coordinated with Lyra, using her input to anticipate the drone's movements. Together, they managed to redirect it safely into a containment field, preventing any injuries. Lyra hugged him tightly afterward, whispering, "You saved me, again." Alex smiled, brushing off the praise. "It wasn't just me. We worked together." The incident, however, had caught the attention of more than just palace staff. A faction of advisors, already uneasy about the humans' influence, began plotting. They worried that if Alex continued to be close to the princess, he could subtly sway her decisions as she grew older. Though they had no evidence of ill intent, their imaginations ran wild with possibilities. That evening, Alex was invited to a formal dinner with the Queen and her advisors. As he entered the grand dining hall, he noticed Lyra already seated nearby, quietly observing him with a small, approving smile. The Queen herself was a commanding presence at the center of the hall, her golden eyes watching every move. Alex felt a slight tension, realizing that the dinner was as much a test as it was a meal. The conversation was polite, measured, and filled with subtle scrutiny. Alex answered every question with care, avoiding offense while showcasing human intelligence and ingenuity. He could feel the Queen's mind analyzing him, testing his character. Lyra occasionally nudged him under the table, reminding him to relax and smile. Her small gestures gave him courage, and he began to feel more confident in the Queen's presence. Suddenly, a loud crash interrupted the conversation. One of the palace windows had shattered, and several glowing energy panels had fallen to the floor. The cause was unclear, but instinctively Alex moved toward Lyra, shielding her from potential danger. The princess clung to him, her small body trembling slightly. Using his quick thinking, Alex assessed the situation. He instructed the nearby guards on how to stabilize the panels while keeping everyone safe. With his calm and clear directions, the immediate danger was averted. The Queen watched silently, her expression unreadable, but there was a subtle shift in her posture, a recognition of his capability and courage. After the incident, the Queen spoke to Alex privately. "You have shown bravery and intelligence, human," she said. "But the palace is not forgiving of mistakes. Understand that your actions, no matter how well-intentioned, carry consequences." Alex bowed respectfully. "I understand, Your Majesty. My goal is only to protect and learn, especially about your daughter and your people." The Queen regarded him for a long moment before nodding slightly. "Very well, but be aware, others may not be as forgiving as I am." As he left her chambers, Alex felt a mixture of relief and anxiety. He realized that the bond he shared with Lyra, while genuine and meaningful, had begun to stir political tension. Yet, he also recognized that his courage and human ingenuity had earned a degree of respect he had not expected. The next day, Alex and Lyra returned to their garden adventures. The princess was excited, insisting on showing him a new invention, a small device that could manipulate light and sound to create illusions. As they experimented, their laughter filled the air, echoing through the corridors and bringing a sense of life and warmth to the palace. However, Alex could not ignore the whispers and cautious glances from the palace staff. Some were suspicious, while others were impressed. It became clear that their friendship had consequences, both positive and negative. Alex knew he needed to be vigilant, protecting Lyra not only from physical dangers but also from the political intrigues that were beginning to take shape. Later that evening, as the two sat by a glowing waterfall, Lyra looked up at him seriously. "Humans are strong," she said softly, "stronger than many Lithurians. You help me. You make me feel safe." Alex felt a lump in his throat. "I'm glad I can," he said. "And you help me too, Lyra. You remind me that courage isn't just about strength, it's about caring, about taking risks for others." She smiled, resting her head briefly on his shoulder. "I like you, human. You are my friend, really my friend." Alex gently patted her back, feeling a deep sense of connection. He knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, diplomatic negotiations, palace politics, or potential dangers, this bond would be the anchor that kept him grounded. As the night deepened, Alex returned to his quarters, reflecting on the events of the past few days. Lithuria was unlike any place he had ever visited, filled with beauty, mystery, and danger. But the greatest discovery was not the alien technology or the glowing cities. It was the friendship and trust he had earned from Princess Lyra, a bond that could change the course of human and Lithurian relations forever. Little did he know, the political tensions he had begun to sense would soon escalate, forcing him to prove his courage, intelligence, and loyalty in ways he could never have imagined. The next challenge would test not only his skills, but also the strength of the friendship that had begun with a single, unexpected hug. The morning dawned bright over Lithuria, but an unusual tension filled the palace. Alex had sensed it for days, a subtle undercurrent of worry among the palace staff and advisors. Today, however, it was more pronounced. Alarms had been raised earlier. A fleet of unknown alien ships had been detected approaching the capital. The situation was serious, and the palace moved into emergency protocol. Alex, despite being a human, was immediately involved. His understanding of strategy and quick problem-solving had already earned him respect from Queen Seraphina, and now his skills would be put to the ultimate test. He felt a surge of adrenaline. Lyra appeared beside him, her wings vibrating nervously. "What's happening?" she asked, her voice small but determined. "They're ships, Lyra," Alex said calmly. "We need to help protect everyone. Stay close to me." The palace quickly became a flurry of activity. Guards took positions along the walls and towers, scholars prepared defensive devices, and advisors coordinated with the queen. Alex moved among them, offering human strategies to reinforce key defenses. Though some were skeptical, they listened, impressed by his calm and clear instructions. Lyra, determined to be part of the effort, hovered near him, asking questions and observing the machines and weapons that lined the palace walls. Alex realized that her curiosity and intelligence could be valuable even in this critical moment. "Watch carefully, Lyra," he said. "Pay attention to how we work together. You'll understand how to protect your people one day." The first wave of enemy ships entered Lithurian airspace. They were sleek, fast, and clearly equipped with advanced technology. The palace defense system engaged immediately, sending energy shields and drones to intercept the attack. Alex directed groups of defenders, coordinating human logic with Lithurian tactics. His combination of creativity and quick decision-making began to turn the tide, stabilizing areas that had been overwhelmed by the enemy. Lyra watched in awe as Alex moved among the defenders, giving instructions and assisting where needed. Her trust in him was absolute, and she knew instinctively that he was the key to helping her people survive. She clutched a small communicator device, relaying his instructions to nearby units under his guidance. Together, they became an unexpected but highly effective team. Despite their efforts, an enemy ship breached one of the palace's outer defenses. It headed straight for the central gardens where the princess often spent her time. Lyra's eyes widened in fear and she immediately flew toward Alex. "We have to stop it," she cried. Alex grabbed her gently, holding her close. "Stay behind me," he said. Then he moved quickly toward the breach. Using his knowledge of alien technology from the past days, he manipulated the palace's defensive machinery in a way the Lithurians had not anticipated. Energy barriers shifted, drones intercepted the ship, and with a combination of strategy and timing, Alex redirected the enemy vessel away from the palace entirely. Lyra cheered, clinging to him tightly. "You did it. You saved the garden." Alex smiled, brushing a strand of her hair from her face. "It's not just me. We did it together. Remember that." The queen, observing from the throne room balcony, finally allowed herself to show the faintest smile. Alex's bravery, quick thinking, and loyalty to her daughter had impressed her beyond expectations. She had seen many humans in reports and histories, but none had shown such courage, intelligence, and respect for Lithurian life. The battle continued for hours. Enemy ships attacked in waves, but Alex coordinated the defenders, predicting enemy moves and ensuring minimal damage. He worked tirelessly, sometimes alongside Lithurian engineers, sometimes alone, always moving quickly and decisively. Lyra, following him whenever she could, helped relay information and kept the defenders' morale high with her courage and energy. As the final wave approached, a larger enemy ship broke through the outer shields and headed directly toward the palace's main tower. Alex realized that if it struck, the damage could be catastrophic. He moved swiftly, analyzing the ship's trajectory and finding a way to redirect it using the palace's energy fields. Timing was critical. One wrong calculation could destroy the palace. Lyra, sensing his focus, hovered near him silently, trusting him completely. Alex adjusted the energy field generators, his hands moving over the alien controls with precision and calm. The enemy ship struck the field, and for a tense moment, it seemed as if it would penetrate. Then, with a flicker of light and a surge of energy, the ship was deflected into the void above the city, neutralized without harm. A cheer erupted from the palace defenders. Lyra flew up, hugging Alex tightly in the midst of the celebration. "You saved everyone." "You saved me," she exclaimed. Alex laughed softly, holding her close. "We did it together, Lyra. You were brave, too." Queen Seraphina descended to the gardens after the battle, her presence commanding yet calm. She approached Alex, who bowed respectfully. "You have done more than I expected," she said. "Not only have you shown courage, but your wisdom and quick thinking have saved countless lives." Alex looked up, surprised but honored. "Thank you, Your Majesty. It was the right thing to do." The Queen studied him for a long moment, then nodded. "Your actions show a quality that few humans possess: compassion, intelligence, and courage combined. You have earned the respect of this palace and of my daughter. From this day forward, you will be recognized as an ally of Lithuria." Lyra, still clinging to him, smiled brightly. "See, human, I told you we could do it, and now everyone knows you're amazing." Alex laughed, feeling a mixture of relief, pride, and exhaustion. He realized that the adventure he had begun with a simple hug had led him to moments of true heroism. He had faced danger, worked alongside an alien civilization, and protected a child whose trust he had earned. The Queen's advisors, who had once been skeptical, now looked at him with respect. Some even bowed slightly, acknowledging his contribution. Alex understood that his place in the palace was no longer that of a mere visitor. He had become part of the story of Lithuria itself. That evening, as the palace quieted, and the glowing lights of the city reflected across the pools and gardens, Alex and Lyra sat together on a floating platform, watching the stars. The air was filled with the soft hum of palace energy, the quiet aftermath of a day filled with chaos and courage. Lyra rested her head on his shoulder. "I knew you were special," she said softly. "Not just brave, but kind. You care about everyone. That's why they trust you." "That's why I trust you." Alex smiled, feeling a warmth that had little to do with physical proximity. "I trust you too, Lyra, and I care about you. I'll always protect you no matter what happens." The princess hugged him again, her small hands holding him tightly. "Promise me something," she whispered. "What is it?" he asked. "Promise you'll always be my friend and stay here for a while. Don't leave yet," she said, her voice sincere. Alex nodded, smiling. "I promise, Lyra, I won't leave. Not now, not ever while I can help you." The Queen watched them quietly from a distance, her expression unreadable but her heart slightly softened. She had tested this human and he had proven himself. More than that, he had formed a bond with her daughter that was genuine, unforced, and full of courage and care. She realized that sometimes trust and friendship were more powerful than rigid rules or strict protocol. As the night deepened, the palace settled into calm. The fleet threat had been neutralized, the defenses repaired, and the citizens reassured. Alex finally returned to his quarters, exhausted but filled with a sense of purpose. The adventures with Lyra had transformed him. Not only had he grown as a diplomat and problem solver, but he had discovered the power of trust, courage, and friendship in its purest form. Lyra, curled up in her room, thought of the human who had unexpectedly entered her life. She smiled in her sleep, dreaming of the adventures yet to come and the bond they shared. A friendship that began with a simple hug had become something far greater, capable of bridging worlds and uniting hearts across the stars. The next day would bring new challenges, new lessons, and new opportunities for Alex to prove himself. But for now, he allowed himself a moment of quiet reflection, knowing that the trust and friendship he had earned were worth more than any protocol, reward, or title. He had faced danger, uncertainty, and fear, and had emerged not only victorious but strengthened in spirit and courage. And somewhere in the palace, the princess dreamed peacefully, knowing that the human who had first hugged her in the gardens was now a true protector, companion, and friend, someone who had earned the admiration of an empire through courage, wisdom, and kindness.